Welcome CSC 200 class, Database Management Concepts. What we're going to work on today is ex2, and it's going to be a Pirates database. A little nostalgia for me. I was a baseball fan back in the 70s and 80s, and we're going to take a look at a database from the 1982 Pittsburgh Pirates. What you're going to do first, after you look at your announcements, and I'll have something here about this exercise in the announcements, you're going to go to Documents and Resources, and you're going to scroll down and you're going to look for downloads. I'll put this as a download. I may put it in coursework as well, but I'll try to put these kind of on the front end. The file that you're going to download is just called Players. We're going to change the name of the database. It's actually the Pirates, but we'll just call it Players. And notice that it's a .csv.zip. .csv is a comma separated file, but it's comma separated, and it's basically an Excel file. But it has to be, it's like saving a Word file as a text file, same kind of thing. So it's basically more of a generic Excel file that can be imported into phpMyAdmin through MAMP. So we're going to do that, but I couldn't upload just the CSV file. It didn't accept it, so I had to zip just the one file. So there's only one file here, but you will have to extract it and from being a zip and then upload the CSV file. So what I'll do now, I'm on my Windows partition right now, so I'll try to do it the Windows way, at least the way that works for me. I'm just going to click on it and download it right now. And again, instead of double clicking on this, what I'll do is I'll go find this in my downloads, go into Windows and click on Downloads, and then I'll look for it. It's called Players.cv.zip, and what I'm going to do is I'll right click on it and I'll say Extract All. Where I'm going to extract it to, because that's where it's looking for, I'm going to go into my libraries and just find my Documents and find my CSC 200 database folder. I'll put it inside. It's not an actual folder, so maybe I'll just put it inside the sample SQL files. I'll choose that. Or if you leave it outside, it's not a big deal either, but I'll try to put it in there. That way I'm keeping all files that I'm importing in the same place, and then I'll just do extract, and there it is, player CV, and it's also inside with the album and the world and that other one. And again, if this comes up again, you can just delete that, the Mac OS X, and I'll delete that. So this is a file, and it even has a little Excel icon with it. So it's an Excel file, and you can open it up in Excel, you can open it up in a text editor and actually see what it is. And if I open this up, just for the heck of it, if I open it up in brackets just to look at it, because I actually had to, because I had to make some changes to it, and here it is. And what it basically is, it's just a text file with a bunch of commas in, there's columns along the top, and it's a bunch of names and a bunch of numbers and columns. It's just a bunch of stats, batting averages and hits and things like that. So that's all that is. It's not very big either. It's not a big file. So I'll close that up and I'll close brackets. So that's all that is. It's just kind of a text file, an Excel version of a text file, and we're going to import that into phpMyAdmin. So I'm going to launch MAMP, and remember that we start servers first thing when it launches, and you want to see them both showing up in green. And once they're running, we want to open the start page, and I changed my preferences so that Google's my default browser, so it's opening up in the same place that I was, instead, because before it was opening up in Firefox, and now it's opening up in Google. And I'll launch phpMyAdmin from down here. And there's my phpMyAdmin, and I set up all my settings last time. And what I'm going to do is, now I have the world database in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to import a new database. The way we're going to do this, and some of this we'll have to be very careful about how we do it. So I want to get you in the practice of importing and also exporting. You're actually going to send me this database back when you're done. But the first thing you're going to have to do is come in here, and you're going to go to Databases first. And when you do that, you'll see your list of databases. You might see your world database in here, and you might see other ones. And we're going to go to Import. And this is where you imported your SQL, except we're not going to import an SQL. And you don't have to change the format yet. You just have to choose File. So I'm going to choose File, and I'll just make sure I go to My Documents. And I'll go inside my database and inside my sample SQL files, even though this is not an SQL file. And I'll choose Players, CSV, and there it is. And when I scroll down, it should show CSV. It recognizes that it is one. And I don't have to do anything else in here. I don't have to, it says commas separated, columns separated with commas, and that's the way it is because we just looked at the file in an editor. One thing we do have to check, it says the first line of the file contains the table column names, because it actually does. It was actually a spreadsheet from Excel. I actually got it on the web, but it's a spreadsheet in Excel. So the top columns across the top are actually going to be the column names. They're going to be our fields in phpMyAdmin. So I do want to check this so it uses them, and it creates basically columns or fields based on that. And I think that's all I need right here. So you're browsing for the CSV, and you're just going to hit go. And if you get green, it's usually a good thing, and if you get pink, it's a bad thing. So it means you had some kind of error. So everything looks green here, so everything looks okay. And I am seeing it over here. It's saying, it's just using a generic name. It's saying CSV_DB, and we're going to change that, and we can change that. So we're going to go to databases, and actually when this comes up, you could change it right here. I'll show you where to change it other than here. But if you go right here where it says options, you could click right on it, and it basically brings up operations. So if you forgot to do that, if you go to operations, they give you a place to actually rename the database. So I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it Pirates 1982, and I'm going to put my last name on it. And I want you to do this too, because that way when you export it, I will get your database, and if I import a whole bunch of databases, I mean, there's not a lot of people in the class, but even just like 8 of them, if I import them, then they'll all have your name on it. So call it Pirates 1982 and put your last name on here so that I know that it's yours. Now, if there's a place to change the table name, which there isn't right now, just hit go, and we could do that another place. And if it says OK, just hit OK, and you'll see that it had changed the name, and it still has a table called table name. And we want to change that too. So if we go here on table name, and we click right on it, and we want to go to operations. So if you click on the table name and go to operations, it gives you a place to change the table name. And you just have to scroll down. There's where we can change the database name. Now we're going to scroll down and change the table name, and we're just going to call that, we're going to call it players. That's all we need. It's just players. Lowercase players, we're just going to use that, and then you just have to hit the go button that's in that little box there. It has its own little area. So table options, rename table to players, and hit go. And when you do that, it should be renamed, and now it says players. So it's just a little lag there, but it's okay. Now it says players, so that's okay. Now for this database, if you click on the database first, and you'll see the structure, and then you could click on players and see the structure of players. And when you do that, well, it's actually browsing, but let's look at the structure and just see what we have here. And it's saying first, last, bats, meaning if they bat right or left or a switch hitter, the games they were in, at bats, runs, hits, doubles, triples, home runs, RBI, stolen bases, if you're familiar with baseball, batting average, which is important with hitters. You want to be batting like around 300 or higher and things like that. Home runs, hitting like 20, 30, 40 or more in a year is a good thing. In a Major League Baseball season, players who play all the time, they might bat like 500 times or so over like 162 games in a schedule. So if you're not familiar with baseball, you'll see some things in that. So these are the columns. This is how all the player stats are kind of divided up. And it's kind of batting stats. It's not pitching, so there is a separate pitchers one, but this is just batting. Now, when you browse here, one thing that looks different than our other database is we don't have any place to like edit it or do anything to it. We could still reorder these, but we can't edit it. And the reason we can't edit it is because if you scroll here, well, first of all, it's showing there's 43. So there's 43 players on the roster. And right up here, it says current selection does not contain a unique column. Okay, so we don't have a unique column because we have first name, which they could have the same first name, they could have the same last name. There's nothing unique here. You could use uniform number, but we don't have uniform number, and even those aren't, they change, and that's not always uniquely associated with a player. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give them an ID, a unique ID, and we haven't done this yet, so this will be the first time doing it, and we'll also do it when we create a database, but we're just editing a database. Let's go back to our database first. That's the best place to go. And we'll see our table, then go into structure. If you go below the structure, then it should allow you to add a column. So that's the place to go. We're going to add a add a new column, and that's looking at the columns is obviously the place to go. So we're going to go down here and it says add one, and it says after SLG, which is slugging. We're not going to do that. We're going to scroll all the way up and we're going to put it at the beginning of the table. We're going to put a new column and then we'll just hit go. So add one column, and we're in structure right now of all the columns, and I'll hit the go button. And then it's giving me one little area here to kind of create a column. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in name, and I'm just going to call it ID. I'm going to call it lowercase ID. It'll stay an integer, and I'm going to use 11 as the value, and that's just like a default that they use. And the other thing that I'm going to do, we're going to scroll over, and the only other thing we have to put in here is we're just going to check AI. AI means auto increment. That means it's just going to make an auto number for us, like an ID number. That's all it's going to do. So we don't have to put in any values for that. It'll do it on its own. And you don't have to do anything here, because we'll talk about this later in the semester. But it basically makes a unique ID so that every player is different. They can't have the same anything. So we're just going to hit go, and I'll hit save. And then when you browse again, you'll see that there should be another column there called ID. All right, now that our database is set up and ready to work with, we're going to do some queries and take a look at it. I think I'll take a break here, and then we'll move on to part 2.